Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk. We're about to take you to a news conference being held on the steps of City Hall by a group known as Flock No. They are asking the city of Cleveland to get rid of their more than 100 flock cameras. Those are the license plate reading cameras that have been used to try and help solve crime throughout the city. If they're looking for a vehicle in an Amber Alert, if they're looking for a vehicle involved in a homicide, the cameras that are not speed cameras, they're simply taking pictures of license plates, can be detected throughout the city. Let's take you now live to the group who says the city should get rid of these flock cameras.
No bid contract to Flock Safety to consolidate all surveillance technology with the company. Since then, our campaign has grown significantly, with Clevelanders all across our city who understand that surveillance is not safety. We know that investing in our communities in proven violence disruption initiatives and not buzzy technology is how we'll truly build the safe and healthy communities that we deserve. We are here today to call on the mayor and City Council to be clear-eyed about the authoritarian context that we are navigating and to choose not to renew the Flock Safety ALPR contract when it expires on June 29th. What you can expect for today is you'll hear from 4 different speakers that I will introduce shortly. And in terms of time, we have a tight program planned, and we don't expect this to take more than 30 minutes. Our first speaker is Bryn Adams, BRYN-ADAMS, who is a Ward 12 resident and a leader with Flock No.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bryn Adams, and I am a resident of Ward 12, and I want to get Flock out of Cleveland. I don't want to be watched everywhere I go, but that's exactly what Flock does. I'm not comfortable knowing that my movements over the last month can be reconstructed in very great detail at any given time, but that is precisely what Flock's technology makes possible. The government should not know when I have doctor's appointments, whether I frequent certain places of worship, which stores I tend to shop at, or whose houses I'm visiting. And yet, because they use Flock and other tools like it, they have all of this information at their fingertips. Mass surveillance is a fundamental element of authoritarianism. Constant observation is the enemy of democracy, free speech, and personal liberty. We are in a moment when authoritarianism is on the rise in our state, our country, and around the world. And at a time when immigrants and activists and queer people are being criminalized and actively targeted by the government, it is upsetting and frankly embarrassing that our mayor is voluntarily participating in the expansion of this mass surveillance infrastructure. Because make no mistake, Flock and other automated license plate readers like it are mass surveillance. Automated license plate readers indiscriminately collect and store data on every vehicle that passes, regardless of whether the driver is suspected of a crime. The data collected includes not just the license plate number, but also other identifying information about each vehicle, such as bumper stickers, body damage, and any other modifications. That data is stored by the city for 30 days and can be searched at any time by police departments all over the country without a warrant. Now, we're told that there is sufficient oversight of this system because the police have to enter a reason in the search field, and the department regularly audits the searches that are made in the system. But even if the reasons listed for searching were clear and detailed and precise, which we know for a fact they are not, and even if the audit examined every single search conducted over the previous 30 days, which to my understanding it is not, the way the data is being used would still be concerning, because there is already a well-established process the police can use if they want to track a suspicious person. They can go to a judge and get a warrant. The fact that Flock and vendors like Flock have gotten away with circumventing this process should make us all very, very worried. The mayor and the police claim they need automated license plate readers and cannot do without them. But if the police need a tool that's designed to violate our constitutional rights in order to do their job, then we need to question whether they're really keeping us safe. Speaking on behalf of the FlockNo team, we care deeply about our communities and neighbors feeling secure, protected, and comfortable. We know that a lot of folks in Cleveland often don't feel safe, and that is extremely distressing. However, we also firmly believe that surveillance technology is not the solution to this problem. Surveillance technology does not prevent harm, it only records it. License plate readers don't stop the hit and run, they just create a document that it happened. We want the city to invest in actually reducing harm and violence by putting these resources towards meeting residents' real material needs and improving the average Clevelander's quality of life. So we're asking, don't renew the Flock contract. Remove all ALPRs from our streets and invest in our communities, not in cameras. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryn. Next, we're going to hear from Sheila Keller, S-H-E-I-L-A-K-E-L-L-E-R. Sheila Keller is a Cleveland Heights resident and a leader in Cleveland Heights for immigrant rights.
Hello. I'm here representing suburbs surrounding Cleveland because we want you to know that Cleveland is not the only city in Northeast Ohio that is fighting Flock and that has currently a movement against Flock. This is a national movement, and right here in Northeast Ohio, residents are urging their elected leaders to drop Flock all across the region. We're working together to organize and learn from each other because we understand this is how we fight back against these dangerous surveillance tools. Campaigns are cropping up regularly and currently, including in Brunswick, where I live in Cleveland Heights, Lakewood, Shaker Heights, Olmsted Township, and Solon. I'm part of the effort in Cleveland Heights. We began after a raid on Cilantro, a local taqueria, in January of 2025, and we're a grassroots movement that's fighting for immigrant rights in our community. As you'll hear from another speaker today, Flock and other ALPRs are very dangerous for immigrants. ICE uses them regularly, regardless of so-called guardrails that cities think they're putting in to protect against the use of Flock and other ALPRs to track down immigrants. We saw in Shaker, who also has an active movement against Flock, just recently that their public records request came out with hundreds of searches using the word immigrant, even though their city believes they had guardrails against that. Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights has a 9-point proposal for immigrant rights, and one of those points is Flock. We are also asking Cleveland Heights City Council to terminate their contract with Flock and all ALPRs because we know there are no guidelines that keep us safe. We also have first put forward our proposal on legal counsel for immigrants, and our current mayor, Jim Petras, promised to make that a priority from day one and has done nothing to date. So we are asking also that Cleveland Heights end their contract with Flock and that Jim Petras keeps true to his agreement to pass our proposal on legal counsel for immigrants. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rebecca Garcia, R-E-B-E-C-C-A-G-A-R-C-I-A. Rebecca is the campaign and policy manager for Avanzamos Unidos and Avanzamos Unidos Action Fund.
Buenos dias, good morning. My name is Rebecca Garcia. I am also a resident of Cleveland, living in Ward 3 in the North Broadway neighborhood. As the child of Colombian immigrants, my parents came to this country believing in the promise of the American dream, the hope of building a life rooted in freedom, opportunity, and safety from persecution. Like my parents, many other immigrants come to this country hoping to achieve that same promise of freedom and opportunity. Many are fleeing violent and authoritarian political regimes that rely on invasive surveillance systems to monitor, police, and control their populations. These immigrants believe that America can be a place where people could live without fear of being constantly monitored, tracked, or surveilled for simply trying to build a better future for their families. Our city's growing surveillance system, FLOC, raises serious concerns for our immigrant communities. Many surveillance technology systems and companies, such as FLOC, including those providing license plate readers, facial recognition, and data sharing platforms, have documented partnerships with federal immigration agencies and authorities like ICE. There are numerous documented instances of 287G agencies sharing FLOC data with ICE, as well as numerous documented instances of individual cops breaking local and state laws to track immigrants. These networks are regularly used for immigration enforcement purposes, even in localities that prohibit such use. Here in Cuyahoga County, outside law enforcement agencies were using Shaker Heights FLOC surveillance systems to conduct immigration-related searches, including civil immigration inquiries that run contrary to the city's publicly stated policies. Information collected locally can end up being used to track, detain, and deport immigrants, even without community knowledge or consent. This infrastructure, This infrastructure does not threaten privacy. It creates fear, discourages people from accessing public services, reporting crimes, or even participating fully in civic life. It is difficult to work, raise a family, or simply live with peace of mind when people are constantly forced to fear being tracked, targeted, or separated from their loved ones by ICE or immigration enforcement authorities. At Avanzamos Unidos, we are committed to advocate for our community's interests and engage Latinas for a more racially, economically, and socially just Ohio. We are focused on the safety and well-being of our communities, and we must push back on the authoritarian tactics that our federal government that puts us at risk. Cleveland should be a city where all immigrants, regardless of their status, and all residents can live with dignity, safety, and freedom of fear. We cannot claim to value inclusion and community trust while investing in systems like FLOC that can be weaponized against immigrant families and communities of color. I urge our city's leaders to reject the expansion of these systems, increase transparency and accountability around data sharing practices, and prioritize policies that protect the civil liberties and human rights of all Clevelanders. Our communities deserve safety rooted in trust and investment, not fear, surveillance, and criminalization. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Our final speaker for today is Bishop Chui, B-I-S-H-O-P-C-H-U-I. Bishop is a Ward 9 Cleveland resident and a grassroots leader in several local organizations.
Good afternoon. Bishop Chui, B-I-S-H-O-P-C-H-U-I. I'm a Ward 8 resident in the neighborhood of Glenville. I'm here today because Cleveland can and should do better. This city council has the power to choose how our public dollars are spent, and that means choosing whether to fund corporations that profit by surveilling the very communities we're trying to protect. FLOC Safety's license plate reader systems capture and store data on every vehicle that passes, not just suspects. Every neighbor, every commuter, every person driving to church or a doctor's appointment or protest. That data is funneled into massive databases, shared across jurisdictions through a patchwork of agreements, fusion centers, and informal channels that no oversight body can appropriately track. The civil liberties implications are serious. The oversight gaps are real. And the risk fall hardest on communities like mine that already experience the harms of over-policing. Meanwhile, Flock profits. Their business model isn't crime reduction, it's data aggregation. Surveilling us and monetizing our personal information is far more profitable than making our streets safer. When you look at who funded this company in its early days, Andreessen Horowitz, Peter Thiel, you see investors with a clear ideological agenda and a history of funding tools that undermine democratic accountability. I'm asking the council to confront these risks honestly. Our community safety and privacy should not be for sale. Flock, no. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. All across the country, municipalities are ditching Flock, recognizing that the costs of mass surveillance are too high. Mass surveillance introduces new safety issues, undermines democratic control of public infrastructure, is expensive, and it does more harm than good. It's time for Cleveland to do the same. That closes our press conference, and Bryn will be available following the press conference for additional comments.
Dan DeRose with 19 News. As you heard, the group Flock No wrapping up their news conference on the steps of City Council, on the steps of City Hall. They are encouraging the mayor and the City Council not to move forward with the new contract, keeping the more than 100 cameras going in the city of Cleveland. Cameras that take pictures of your license plate, regardless of whether there's a crime being perpetrated or not. There's just constant cameras taking pictures of license plates. The police use it to spot vehicles that are wanted, attached to individuals who have warrants out there. We've seen in the past cases where an Amber Alert will be issued and the car will be picked up by a license plate reader. But according to Flock No, this is an invasion of privacy and is just a super collector of information. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be right here on our digital platforms. Otherwise, look for 3.5 hours of news and First Alert weather to start at 3 o'clock on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Hope you have a good afternoon.